Oh, we got Cryoc versus Razz, 89.
Is there
A
a
rank.
Twitch chat? I need to see if there's a Twitch chat.
I don't think anybody's talking right now, but yeah, we're streaming on Twitch. You want to co-cast the games with us, guys? For the last fucking time, get your asses in here. Take advantage of our open community cast invite. Nobody else is crazy enough to do it, but we don't give a fuck. No, I think it's fun, and it's always cool to see old and new voices pop in and out.
So next we've got Cryoc versus Razz. If I'm reading that correctly.
Alright, so the map is new. It's by our Korean map maker by the name of Gosami. He got it accepted into Custom Music Star League Season 4. Some Korean semi-pros and pro gamers will be playing on it. We might be the first series where this is actually being streamed and tested live. Let's get into game one between Cryoc and Razz.
What was the full result of Jojo versus Aggie?
2-1 for
win.
Jojo.
Yep, 2-1.
Oh, nice.
In the top left, we have Cryoc playing Terran.
In the bottom right, I hope this is Protoss. Okay, good. I was like, I hope this is not a TVT.
I love TVTs.
I don't know anything about TVT. In fairness, I don't really know anything about PVT. I always lose this matchup.
And you don't need to know anything to join us. You can cast seriously or joke around. The point is to have fun and create an inclusive environment. Let's see what we're going to see on Windbreak Ridge, a new map.
It's kind of a narrow map. I'm wondering how that's going to play into it. I'm guessing it's not a carrier map if it's narrow.
Well, no, probably not. The thing is, your Goliaths are going to be pretty much able to reach both ends of the map very quickly. The issue for against Terran on this map is that kind of holds true for just about any composition that you go for. So you probably don't want to let the Terran get maxed out on time.
Yeah.
Because
I'm noticing too that these, I don't think that those high grounds can reach the main, but I feel like if a Terran ever gets a siege tank on that high ground, on that ridge,
yeah,
well,
I think from on this map, if the Terran ever gets to the ridge that's just past the bridges, then it's like completely game over, because you can't come over the bridges as Protoss, and you certainly can't just attack uphill into that. So I think that's just such a hugely favorable position. If Terran gets split map, and then they just need to like get to the Protoss bridges, and then it's like very difficult for Protoss afterwards. But it might be wide enough that they can that Protoss can run around, because if you look how the ridges are designed in the center, there's like almost like a circular path that you could take to get around them, and it's actually quite a distance to get from one bridge to the other, I think.
So there are some opportunities to reposition, but
yeah, exactly.
Definitely, I feel like it's definitely a Terran mech favorite map if they get to the position they want to.
Yeah, and from my understanding, that's also what was intended with the map, is to, because right now, if you look at the foreign scene or the Korean scene, like Terrans are not faring super well.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of map makers or those who decide what the map pools are have tried to get away from the fighting spirits and circuit breakers. And I guess that's hurt the Terran game plan to some extent.
Yeah,
That would
well,
be my opinion on it, but
yeah, I think that the other thing is if you look at the history of the game, Terran has always been the most successful at the very, very peak, and some of that, because we see like there's no modern Terran other than Flash that has been like completely game breaking in the matchup, and it looks like we're gonna have an engagement here, but easily pushed away. There's no way you could fight uphill into 4 Marines, even with 1 Goon and 1 Zealot. It's not close to being enough. But yeah, what I was saying is that in the modern game, the only successful Terran is Flash. Like there hasn't even been like a semi-successful Terran in the pro scene post in the past 2-3 years. So it makes sense that a lot of maps are geared to more towards Terran now. And I think a lot of that is due to the mechanics, because Terran is very mechanically intensive, and it looks like the Terran's going to push out here, and he should be quite successful actually, because there's a lot of damage already on that Zealot, a lot of damage already on the Dragoon. The attempt to push up, but losing that Vulture is going to hurt because he doesn't have the Spider Mine. That's 3 Spider Mines that didn't get down. But Terran could potentially just push across the map and kill him. Losing the tank, not great, but there's no units at home. So if these Vultures have mines, I don't know if he's researching it or not. That could be pretty huge.
yeah, I don't see the upgrade coming, so I think it's just plain Vultures. But even then, like that's a beastly force. Like I think you need at least 3 goons to.
Yeah, I see why he sent his SCV to scout, but I think I would have preferred it with the army, because now he has mines and he can repel the Dragoon, and if he had a bunker here, it's just like game over, right? Like there's no way to break the bunker going up the hill, up the ramp, and he might still get the Nexus is canceled. That's huge. I think unless something massive happens, Cryoc is in such a good position. This 2-fact put him in a very good spot.
So
and
with one base, and it needs several minutes to get a Reaver, do you think there's any chance he can bring this back with one base, 3 gates, and a Reaver?
Well, if we've learned anything from Korean StarCraft, is that Reavers can do anything.
This is true.
But the realistic answer is no, the Reaver should not be on time to really do any meaningful damage, especially given that there's 2 factories. He should have more tanks. I don't know, he might overcommit to a contain though. So that's the only way I can really see Razz getting back in, is if like he gets the Reaver out and kills all the SCVs. But I don't even know if he's going Reaver. He had 3 gateways. I don't know if he added another gateway or if he went Robo. Yeah, he's going 3 gates and then Robo. Like, I think he.
Oh, yeah. I love that tank positioning there.
I guess he needs the extra units, because like he's not. That's it.
I would just GG right there, probably.
Yeah. that is every time I try to break out. But he shouldn't be trying to break out with 3 goons and a Zealot against a 2-fact. He doesn't know for sure that it's 2-fact, but he probably has a good sense of it given how many units have come out. Like, if he doesn't know, he really should know, and he'll look at the replay after and he'll be kicking himself a bit for that, because there's so many things didn't go well for him, and I think and he's going to take a hit in expansion. I think this is a really good idea, because Cryoc isn't going to have enough off of 2 factories to easily break down a ramp. So this could be good if it goes unscouted.
Yeah, he's not gonna have a probe transfer, but it gives him something. So, I mean, I guess it's like it's a hope if it's not scouted, but
Yeah. Well, it looks like he's going around with a Reaver now. I'd like to see something else in the shuttle because right now, honestly, if Cryoc just A moves down the ramp, he probably kills him. Now that the Reaver is halfway across the map, of course, he can't know that, and he's getting some turrets at home. It's going to be really hard to do anything with this Reaver. He's going to have to drop it, kill some turrets, and still somehow kill all the SCVs before Cryoc responds. And how quick is the reaction? Because he's got 2 tanks at home, probably rallied across the map, and yeah, it looks like Cryoc should be fine here.
If he had arrived with the Reaver after the tanks had reached his nat, it would have been kind of more effective drop, but unlucky for him, he just came out of a cycle when tanks popped out.
Yeah, I like realistically, it shouldn't matter too much at what point in the cycle he. Oh, there it is.
I don't
That's
think he saw that. Yeah.
so painful. Because like even if you have to produce the 2 tanks from scratch, just dealing with the turrets before going for any SCVs is like it's already enough time. And now he's gonna see the natural is already mining. He knows exactly what Cryoc has. He knows that he's not breaking out of his base. It's looking pretty grim.
Yeah, my
He
guess
needs-
here is he's gonna get another Reaver and then try to just bomb the tanks and
Yeah.
break out. Is my guess, right?
Well, he kind of has to, but it's hard to see how it's going to succeed, right? Like he's
Yeah.
got a lot of zealots, but he doesn't have enough shuttles to carry those, and he's probably going to lose some shuttles, some zealots in the shuttles if he tries to go, and he's just going to go on the ground, not using the shuttle at all. Bunker, no way. Oh my god. Yeah.
That was
Yeah. The real, I guess, takeaway here is that as Protoss, you can't take damage on units before you even know what the Terran is doing. If the Terran's going for an aggressive build, you just die.
hmm Yeah, I feel like he lost that game when he decided to trade 3 goons for a tank.
Well, not only that, right? Even before then, the reason he traded so inefficiently is because he traded half the HP on a goon and a zealot to scout up the hill for 4 Marines.
Mm.
You know, like if you're going to look to see what they have, that's fine, but he needs to know that he can't break that.
Yeah, because I think he saw it and then he like tried to bust.
Yeah.
Like maybe if I run up and hit the Marine, the SUV won't block me.
Indeed. It's like I think it's a flaw in like every Protoss's play is just like you see something that you shouldn't be able to break and you're like, well, my units are strong and if the Terran messes up, then I can kill him.
Yeah. No, I mean like when you play against Zergs, I know you're always running zealots by and stuff. Like, hey, we can just walk by, right? But Terran punishes you more.
Yeah, not always. Uh-oh, what's this? It's a proxy gate. So we're gonna have a proxy 2 gate. This game will be very quick.
There's a lot of unbuildable terrain on this map, eh?
Yeah, I hope he knows where he's putting that. Based on how quickly he's sending it out, it's...
Yeah, this area here is buildable, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love proxies and cheeses. Watching them.
Yeah. I mean, this is gonna be a pretty strong attack, obviously, but I don't know why he's not building up more probes. Is he just doing a proxy 7 gate? And
The nice thing about proxying on this map is it's 2
Yeah.
players, and you don't have to give it away by scouting with your probe early. I'm not sure why he's actually scouting, because Cryoc, I think, is going to be tipped off,
Well,
right?
I think
Well,
you
I
want
don't
to bring the
know.
probe
It's
in
like,
at the
why are
right
you
time,
scouting me this early? You're not really gaining any information. If he gasses him, that might be playing a mind game there, because then Cryoc thinks, okay, that's why you came early. So I think maybe that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Pretending like
did
he's gonna gas him. Maybe he really was going to gas him, but that would probably spoil his proxy plan, so I think it was fake.
I think if you gas steal on a 7 gate, you should just
Oh, look
lose.
at this.
Like,
Look
Cryoc
at this.
well, he knows that the scout was too early.
Cryoc's not falling for it.
Yeah.
I love it. How many people would have fell for that?
Well, I think a lot of people would get suspicious. It's just about knowing what to look for, right? Like,
Oh, nice.
it's not like
really
the
matter,
probe.
but-
Yeah,
Right.
it's not like the probe was there for 2 seconds and then Cryoc magically.
Maybe he would have did that regardless of whether there was a scout or not early on. Like Cryoc would have checked for proxy in game 2.
He might, but like the thing is, if you send your probe to fake a gas steal and the Terran doesn't instantly respond and your probe sits there for like 10 seconds, the Terran knows that you're not there for the gas steal. You're not harassing his barracks, so what are you doing there that
Good
early? He's still getting a decent amount of damage.
Split the zealots, right? Try to
Yeah.
surround the marine, right? Because I guess he's just gonna try and run that marine between the barracks and the supply depot, right?
I'm a fan of bunkers. I think it's risky not to make one, but
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think that what Cryoc did here is he put his factory too far out, which means that he basically can't support it actively with other SCVs. So the SCVs that he has there, just like, they die so quickly, and there's no way to kind of trap the zealots. And
I'm a little confused what he was doing with the zealot movement. I feel like he could have just committed. I don't know.
he took out a few SCVs. It might have been just worth it.
yeah, it's
But now
this
he has
is
a factory
this is
and it's-
super worth it. He just needs a Dragoon. He's ahead in the worker count. Like, his economy is ahead. If he can get a Dragoon home on time to deal with this vulture, he's way ahead. Well, I say way ahead just because Terran is going to be very uncomfortable in this position, given how late the machine shop is going to be. But yeah, I feel like this is good for Razz. Like, the vulture's staying home and defending against these zealots, and of course they can't make it up the ramp before they kill the zealots with the uphill shot. The Dragoon should be on time.
Yeah, that was some really good zealot play.
And remember, there's no machine shop, so there's no mines, there's no tanks, there's just vultures against. Oh god, the Dragoons can't run up ramps. Razz, what are you doing? What are the probes doing? Wait.
Is he what? I think he's
Oh,
just trying
he's
to
gonna
block
the ramp. Yeah, he's trying to buy time for his Dragoon at home. I would have liked to see him, rather than try to run in, I would have liked to see him run that Dragoon home right away, so he wouldn't have to waste so much mining time. Now it looks like Cryoc's just gonna try to turn this into a normal game. You know what? Successful cheese from Razz, but
It kind of evened out. I don't know.
yeah, not game-breaking damage, I guess. And of course, like, if
Like,
the
it doesn't
Dragoon
put him
were
in
to-
a significant lead, you mean, huh?
Yeah, exactly. The only thing we could say about this position is that the Terran probably doesn't like it, as far as, like, the unit composition is different than normal, the factory timing is different, the expansion timing is different, and Terran's all about timings in this matchup.
I think Cryoc missed his opportunity to take out this proxy gateway earlier on.
Well, he's gonna have plenty of opportunity for that now, because he's gonna have mines, and losing a Dragoon like that, it really kind of brings Cryoc back into the lead, I want to say. I don't know why he's mining right in front of his base. Maybe he feels like that's gonna detonate before he has to take it, but
Might be worried about a DT as well.
yeah, well, you have to know that the Protoss doesn't have enough money, enough gas given the amount of Dragoons you've seen. Like in Cryoc's position.
Yeah, I might be worried about an offensive.
Because like there's no right now, you know, the total amount of, I guess, hidden resources is what is in the bank for Razz. Otherwise, Cryoc knows exactly what Razz has.
Shout out to Tara Yu for rating us. My apologies for missing that. If you want to join and cast these games, hop into our Discord server. We have a link in our About Twitch page. I am sharing my screen. You can just hop into the open casting channel and co-cast.
Yeah. So overall, yeah, it seems to like it's gonna turn into an even game here, and it's kind of I don't know how Razz fell behind on economy. He should be ahead. His expansion should be faster, but I guess overproducing on goons and kind of losing a couple of them puts him in this spot. And he must have cut probes. His expansion's obviously later as well as a result. So I kind of like Cryoc's position, even though a minute ago it looked like the 7 gate was effective.
This is game 2 of Cryoc vs. Razz, a best of 5 A-rank prize show match on a new map called Windbreak Ridge by the Korean map maker Gosami from our Discord server. Big shout out to Gosami for getting this map accepted into Season 4 of Caster Muse's Star League.
So yeah, I definitely think like Cryoc being up in worker count right now is gonna pay, like, it's gonna pay huge dividends for him, especially on this map. It's gonna be very hard for the Protoss to catch up if he's not like maxed and with arbiters and stuff. The ramps are just so deadly for Protoss.
So I would imagine Protoss is looking to take a third here.
Yeah, and there it is. Is that a mineral only? I think it is.
I mean, I guess against Terran, you're mostly mineral. You mostly want minerals, right? So,
Well, you need a lot of zealots, so I guess that's okay. It's very kind of wide open, and it's kind of exactly where the Terran is going to want to push to. So I don't know how well this base holds versus the one, say, at the 6 o'clock, but I think it's okay. It's like standard to take just the closest one as Protoss versus Terran. But yeah, I think, yeah, Cryoc going for that 3 base, he's just gonna wait till he's at like 180 supply, and he's gonna move out with like a 3-2 army, and that should be able to crush just about anything that Razz is able to manufacture in the same amount of time. So Razz is gonna have to have basically a maxed out army and a significant gateway count in order to counter that.
what are upgrades looking like on Terran? He's taking plus, so he's getting +1 now. About
Yeah.
almost halfway done.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd imagine
So,
Protoss is probably sitting on 0 upgrades too, right? So yeah. So he probably wants to hit relatively soon. Like probably get this third saturated and then add gates, right?
well, Razz is gonna have to do something right around like Cryoc at a certain point. Maybe that's soon or now. He's gonna throw down like 3 factories, 3 additional factories or something like that, and then he's gonna go, right? So like you kind of want to hit him just as or do something just as they're kind of going into that macro cycle. Because that's when the Protoss will have the most and the Terran will have the least.
With adding Templar Archives, it's looking like he wants to get Arbiters, so probably nothing until he has them out, right?
Yeah, and exactly. And you see here, Cryoc's throwing down 3 more factories. It's almost like I watched this game before. But yeah, so he's going to be macroing up a ton. He's already maintaining even on supply. He has more income. His worker count is higher. There's nothing going in Razz's favor right now, and he really doesn't have the units to make anything happen. And Cryoc has all tanks, so like he's not even going super greedy, and making up for it by like taking 2 or 3 bases, right? Now he's going to be at 4 bases at about a little bit late actually, because Cryoc's been on 3 base for a while. So I'd like to have seen Razz go for either something a little bit more aggressive or something a little bit greedier. But he's kind of gone for a kind of middling builds that, he'll have about even amount of units, but his economy is not great. He has good tech, but he doesn't have many arbiters. Like, the Terran army has a lot of siege tanks. He's only been building tanks this entire game. And, the lack of vultures would have made it easy for Protoss to take the 4th base earlier, or maybe even go up to 5 base. But I guess we'll see.
I'm thinking he's trying to go for some storm drops here because he's got a shuttle and his Psy Storm's almost done.
Yeah, well, he probably has like maybe 1 more minute or something. Terran is not putting in any upgrades right now, so Cryoc a little bit slow probably on the upgrades. I don't know if he has. I don't think he has 2-1 yet, so
No, he doesn't. He hasn't
that
even started it.
that is actually a big problem for
Yeah.
Cryoc. And just as I say, there's no vultures. The few vultures that are there get in, and they're doing massive damage as well. I
feel like you should have added a couple more. I think you usually want at least 3 cannons, right, per base.
Well, it's not even
If
the
they're
amount
open.
of. Oh my goodness, this is so annoying. The Dragoon's glitching out. But it's not even that he needs more cannons. It's just like there are, a total of 6 vultures on the map, and you have 150 supply Protoss, 160 supply Protoss. Like, you have 2 points to defend, right? Like, what are you doing? Your army has to be in those positions, and if it's not in position, it doesn't matter that you have cannons. Vultures are going to trade well with probes. Like, even if he has 2 or 3 cannons, he still gets an even trade. In this case, there was nothing, so he gets a really good trade, but you can't trade evenly with vultures. And here's the big engagement. Protoss doesn't have the supply they need to deal with this, because ideally he wants to go before the Terran gets maxed, right? And it's fortunate for him that the Terran is only 1-0. I thought that he'd be 2-1 by now. And a lot of that is just due to the fact that he didn't start his upgrade until like 20 seconds ago. The 1-0's finished a long time ago. But this might still be enough. Protoss coming in. Cryoc on the low ground. I don't know if it matters.
Some nice storms, but
Yeah, that's a good storm.
Doesn't matter.
That's a really good storm. That might... Well, it might, because he's got a lot of Dragoons left. He just needs to pull back the Dragoons, wait for another round of Zealots, and Cryoc obviously doing the same, but waiting for another round of Vultures. But all of those tanks are relatively weak. I don't like the position that Cryoc chose to take, right? Because he knows that the Protoss is further back, because he was just in there with his Vultures. Going the other way around would have been more efficient. He'd be on the high ground. So a little bit of a mistake there from Cryoc.
I also find it a little strange he moved out before his 2-1 timing was done.
Yeah, well, he kind of had to because his 2-1 was so late, and oh, this is not a good engagement.
Losing
Don't go up
Arbiter.
that ramp. Yeah, so like the problem is when your 2-1 is that late is you run the risk of Protoss just like overwhelming you by getting, his second Arbiter. He'll have energy for stasis on one of them. Like that Arbiter died without casting any spells. Now
Yeah.
imagine Protoss is maxed and has a second Arbiter. Like Cryoc can't wait. He just needs the 2-1 to be done earlier. Like I said, it's a bit of a mistake, but he's still okay here because he's taking another base. He's actually going to be up on bases against the Protoss. So Razz is still in a bad spot.
Yeah, and he let him get that high ground with the mines too. Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is.
trading zealots into, dragoons into vultures with siege tank support.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I think at this point, just wait for the arbiter, because that's
yeah. Yeah, he has to conserve all of his Dragoons, right? Because you can't reinforce quickly enough if you're building Dragoons. So you need to conserve all of the ones that you have and then just melt the Zealots into the Terran army every time and just hope to have enough. But yeah, no Arbiter once again. Even once he has one though, it's not going to have energy, which is like, a big problem, and he's fighting uphill. These Dragoons are basically doing nothing. They can't even kill the vultures. So
I'd like to see some more shuttles. There aren't that many Goliaths or turrets, and you can probably drop some Zealots. But from the beginning, I felt like Razz should have bought time
he never
and
researched
really
stasis.
kept macroing.
yeah,
Sorry to
well,
interrupt you there. I just noticed he never researched stasis.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
oh that is pretty much game ending because like he not only does he need to break this now, but he needs to push across the map and kill an expansion. So like, but he's already down 26 supply. Like, I don't think he can break this army. And then if he does, he still needs to stop an expansion out. But yeah,
He's got his stasis with tanks in the back, right? Oh, he's
yeah,
we got zealots left. Ooh. Oh, yeah.
this is over. I think that where like this game was actually, um, what we saw early from Razz was, obviously it started with the 7 gate. He did fairly well, but I feel like his early game decision making has been his downfall in both of these games. Just, in the first game, he took too much damage on the Zealot and the Dragoon, and in this, against a 2-fac no less. And then in this one, he never took his natural. Like it took him forever to take his natural. He cut probes. Um, and it's understandable that you want to get a Dragoon out to deal with the Vulture because otherwise you die.
Right.
But he waited for like 4 or 5 Dragoons, and you just can't do that because then not only like he did enough damage to be ahead, and then by the time he's got enough Dragoons that he feels safe to take his expansion, he's behind. Cryoc all of a sudden has more economy, he's got more army, and it's just over from there. Otherwise, maybe if he went Reaver, he probably wasn't feeling it after the first game. But you know, it's rough when you get behind so early on, especially when you were leading.
So, Starvey, you're a mapper. What's your impression of Windbreak Ridge, which we just saw? Do you think there are any kind of interesting aspects about it? Any potential imbalances or like things that one race could exploit?
Yeah, so my well, my initial impression of this map is that um, honestly, I don't think that there's all that much that's super interesting about it. I think it's like a very easy to play map, very straightforward. You basically there's one way to go, and that's you know just stick to the high ground on your way to the enemy base, right? Um, and you can pretty much cover the entire length of the map pretty easily. So it cuts out a lot of strategies that way. Rush distance is fairly long. So like, you're already in a very narrow game state. So as far as like playing it, I think it's probably fairly easy to play. I like it as a map for now. Um, I think in the Kespa era, it would have been super broken for Terran, but I think that, and this is a point that I didn't get to finish earlier because of the fights that were going on, is like, I think that the kind of regression of mechanical play, because Kespa era was super focused on mechanical play, and players would practice mechanics like 10 to 12 hours a day, right? So that's probably what brought about the top Terrans getting better, is like Terran is such a demanding race, right? But in like the post Kespa era, I really like this map. But I think if it was like a map from 2009, it would have been super broken. So it just depends on like, I guess, the quality of mechanics and how strong the top Terrans are. Which of course Flash is gonna completely destroy everyone if he plays in the next ASL as Terran.
Hey Bug, what do you think about this map if you were to play Zerg versus Protoss or Terran or Zerg? Any comments?
I think it would be I mean, I don't think he would use unusual strategies, but I think it would definitely, like Starby was saying, it limits the strategy, so there's fewer variables. So it would be a lot of lurker play, or it's not a bad muta map either. But yeah, it's a very straightforward type of map. I don't think it's a heavily Zergling favored map or anything else.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the feedback. The map maker Gosami will be watching the VOD later and looking forward to your comments. So here we go. What is this? Round 3 of Cryoc versus Razz. Best of 5. Cash prize for the winner at Team Thinkwick. I think we spent about $5,000 now on show matches and tournaments and stuff.
Sweet. It's good
Miles,
stuff. Yeah. It's always good to see new Brood War content and same positions as last game. We'll see what the two players go for here. I would love to see Razz go for a proxy 2 gate, to be honest. I think the proxy gate was like super effective, and I haven't liked his macro play when compared to Cryoc. I think that Cryoc is well, I don't know if he's in general, but in this series, his macro has just been superior, and it's the reason he's won both games. So, I'd like to see, something a little bit more aggressive and committal from Razz. I feel like in both games he kind of went semi-aggressive. So if he just commits to something, maybe if he just commits to macro, it'll be a more focused game from him too.
See, my impression of watching Razz was he's doing well. The biggest shortcoming was choosing the correct engagements. And last game, every single engagement just went really bad for him after the proxy gate phase. And his army just got chipped away gradually. So he could have maybe just macroed up, massed his unit as much as he can. Either gone around like you were saying, or just attacked at once and cross his fingers that it'd work.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like you're probably right, and decision making is a huge part of it, because we saw in both games early on he took damage on his units that were not engaged in any kind of combat, right? Like he just like lost a Dragoon running back. He tried to run up the ramp when there was a vulture on the way to his base. Like it's just small decisions like that that cause the game to kind of get out of hand. So if he can fix those few things, maybe when the army engagement comes, he's on better terms, because Cryoc didn't make the best decisions when he moved out with his maxed army. He went on the low ground when he could have taken the ramp to the left, or to the right. I guess the left from his army's perspective. But yeah, he could have taken the other ramp, and that brings him on the high ground for the engagement. Instead, he kind of like goes around it onto the low ground. So maybe for Razz, it's just about, just trying, like I said, try to focus on one thing, whether that be a macro opening or an aggressive opening. And here we have an engagement. He's going to get up the hill with the Zealot, but probably not going to get much done. Oh, nice moving shot with the probe, though. So what's the tally? 1 probe and 1 marine, and a little bit of mining time for a Zealot and a probe.
Is it possible to wall off? I mean, one of the interesting things about this map is that the ramp goes upwards and not downwards, like most maps.
Yeah.
I like this play. He pulls them away from the ramp so the Dragoon can get up.
Yeah, that's good. I think that he should have enough, though. One of the Marines was severely damaged, so the Dragoon actually is enough to kill that off. The tank should be coming out soon, though, so I don't expect too much damage to come from this.
He
So
still
would
has
you
high
have
ground advantage, though.
Yeah, now, but what Razz needs to do is he just needs to relax now and just macro up, right? He doesn't need to do any more damage to the Terran. The Terran already, his game plan is a little bit messed up. He's only got 1 factory, and he's, not able to move across the map. He's not taking his expansion yet. He doesn't have the money for an expansion right now. I don't know what he spent it on, but yeah, this is looking, once again, this is looking good for Razz. And now if he could just focus on his macro and make sure he stays ahead in supply, it should turn out well for him.
So what would you like to see Razz do next? Do you want to see him add some gateways, just build lots of probes efficiently?
Yeah, just make sure that your worker count stays high, and use the high ground to micro back against the tanks. But he's got 2 injured Dragoons again.
Yeah, if he loses these, I think it's over.
Yeah,
So
Flashback to game 1 here.
Cryoc is committing to this.
Yeah, I like that he's pulling his Dragoons back. They are injured,
Yeah.
but
I think he just needs to hold his high ground here. He hold the high ground, wait till you have enough, break the contain, and meanwhile stay ahead on worker.
High ground, man.
But sniping the tank there, I feel like that was a worthwhile trade. He just needs to back up with the injured Dragoon, and the micro is actually pretty decent from Razz here. So
He's
with
got
no
Dragoon range,
vultures,
too.
no mines, and the tank is on the low ground, he just needs to kill these other buffer units, and he's going to be in a really good spot. Of course, once the tank has siege mode, the game changes a little bit, and it becomes harder to work around as a Protoss. But Cryoc going to lose another tank.
Yeah.
This really didn't work for Cryoc. I understand what he's trying to do, but I feel like,
No probes.
after the first 2 games, Cryoc should be more than happy to just take an expansion and try to macro it out, especially after how much of a supply lead he had last game. I don't know if he really got a sense of that in game where he took the lead, though. So it's worth noting that he didn't really check the replay.
do you think Razz was expecting an attack like that?
I mean, he had to, right? Because his Dragoon was all the way across the map, so he saw it coming the whole way. He has to know that it's only 1 factory because there's no follow-up, and that was very few units. So I don't really know if it's worth it for Cryoc to delay his natural by that much. But at the same time, we're seeing...
It wasn't an awful trade. I mean...
Yeah, but Razz isn't building workers again, or he's not gaining as much as I would have expected.
Yeah, he has 2 Nexuses to 1 CC, but he's only up 1 worker.
Yeah, he's just not maintaining worker production, and yeah, we've seen this last game. He was ahead in workers, but he couldn't sustain it. So I think Razz, a lot of his struggle here is going to be with macro once again. So, but maybe he's just going to go for it and see if he can break. He's got a Reaver in the shuttle, a Reaver and a Dragoon, I believe. He's got 5 Dragoons on the ground.
No engineering bay.
Yeah, there's only 2
that's big.
tanks.
Who just joined us? Ah,
I think. Oh man, the Dragoons are glitching out on the eggs. He's not going to be happy about that.
Shout out to Is This Discord and Banana TQ. Guys, hop in the OpenCast channel and co-cast
Oh,
with
no.
us.
Oh no, those Dragoons. I think that players are going to have a problem with this.
yeah.
I think there should just be a doodad there so that it's forever closed or forever open. But like, yeah.
Gosami has a little freakling in him, and I mentioned freakling because he does some interesting things. So there's a drop.
Yeah. So remember, if this is close,
Oh, that was nicely
yeah,
done.
he's got a lot here. He's got a lot of Dragoons. This should work. And he's still got a Reaver. As long as the Reaver lives, he can effectively kill SCVs very quickly. And it looks like Razz is gonna do it. I really like this from Razz because in every game he's fallen behind on worker count. He's fallen behind on army supply. But oh my god, he's not building Scarabs in the Reaver.
Yeah, I don't think there were any.
Yeah.
That could have gone awful for him. If he lost his Dragoons, then his Reaver didn't do much damage.
Oh yeah. But yeah, he's floating money. He's not microing his units. I think that it's
Okay.
what Cryoc. Yeah.
I was gonna say even after all that, he would still only have 3 workers, but he's gotten into a now 7 worker advantage, and he has almost double supply.
He still has the Reaver, so this should still be over. It's just it could be much worse for Cryoc, but I think it's still over. Yeah, the Reaver's still alive. There's no way he can.
Yeah, I question Cryoc bringing his tanks up there. I feel like you wanting, until you need an anti-air option against that. Like, wait for the Goliaths, right?
Yeah,
I love how Cryoc's still making SCVs.
Yeah.
And he's rally pointed him away, right? Oh my god.
Well, he probably thinks that if he can kill this Reaver, he probably thinks that he has a chance, and he might be right.
Oh my god, he just took it out.
There's like the Dragoons are glitching in the middle of the map again. The macro from Razz is not on point. So
he's attacking barracks.
yeah, he's gonna soon be stuck on the low ground unless he does something about this tank. Okay, there we go.
Really good SCV usage.
Yeah, but there's a lot here from Razz actually. But
it's not gonna stop. Yeah,
very good defense. It's a very strong defense from Cryoc, but he just he needed to know it was coming a little bit sooner. And yeah, if he doesn't run up the ramp with the tanks, maybe he has a chance to repel the Reaver. Good game. But yeah, I like that from Razz. He just lost in a macro game and he fell behind. He was already falling behind in this one, so he goes for something very aggressive and pays off. I think that plays into maybe, playing a macro game maybe just plays into Cryoc's strong suit. Cryoc seems to like to get ahead in the matchup and stay ahead.
Well, if Cryoc had stopped it. Hey, Is This Discord? Thanks for joining us. Had a power outage earlier. I apologize if anybody was following us. And the stream stopped. So we're going into game 4. It's 2-1 for Cryoc. The map being featured is called Windbreak Ridge by a Korean map maker by the name of Gosami. At Team Thinkwick, we have several active map makers. 1 has joined us to cast games, started, and we feature their maps, and they're developing their maps for other series and leagues. You can learn all about it by checking out our Showmaps Talk channel and Showmaps channel of our Discord. Take it away, boys.
Yeah, so 2-1 now for Cryoc.
That is correct.
Same spawns. Again.
So yeah, I feel like early Zealot pressure is really strong on this map because you can't wall off. Am I wrong? You gotta make Marines?
I think you can wall off. I think you probably can wall off. In most cases, Terran has an option to wall off on a standard ramp. So it looks like probably 2 supply depots and a barracks is a complete wall at the base of the ramp, if you wanted to. I don't think that walling off is super popular in general in PvT though, because the mid game, like, it impedes your army so much when you're like, you restrict the movement of your ramp, because the ramp is already kind of a pain. So if they go for like Dragoon pressure and you wall off on the low ground, it's just really weak. Because you don't want Dragoons on the high ground against your supply depots on the low ground.
Okay, thanks for explaining that. I just recall Gosami saying that he intentionally made the map a tiny bit advantageous to Protoss, if I remember his comment. And that might have more to do with the fact that he is trying to get his maps into Korean leagues. So foreigners who just heard me say that don't have a heart attack or rage. I think you have to take it in context. But we are featuring his map in our...
Yeah, for sure. And, like, what he was saying as well is that his main concern was making the map bad for Zerg.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, like in the Korean scene, just with recent results, it's undeniable that Zerg is the strongest right now.
Well, my comment to him was that might be your intention, and might be what you perceive, but it might not actually be the reality of the map. I don't know enough to tell you if it's advantageous to one race or another, but
yeah,
I think it's very complicated, and it's hard to make those kind of assessments. That's why we're playtesting them as well, right?
Yeah. So it's going to be some early Zealot pressure. Is that a core? Yeah. So a little bit of early aggression, not committing to it just yet. So I mean, I'm a big fan of what Razz did last game. I think if you're dealing with a Terran that macros well, hit him early and hit him hard. And I like the position of the factory a lot better from Cryoc this game. You see how he can easily pull SCVs to and from the mineral line from this position, and he doesn't lose that SCV. If the factory was positioned where it was before, he doesn't get there as early, and he probably loses at least one SCV. So that's a very nice adjustment from him, knowing that it's probably going to be aggression, since that's the only thing he's lost to so far. So he's fully aware of what his challenges are and what he has to deal with.
Do you know why this? Why there are spores, first of all?
Yeah,
the naturals.
The spore is just so that the Zerg can defend with Sunkens.
So it spreads creep if you're Zerg, basically.
Yeah, well, you could build a creep colony under it. I kind of agree with the comment that LML made, is that the map is almost designed so that the feature can be used, because the map could have remained unchanged, and the natural could have been edited a bit just so that it doesn't need it, but it's just a mapper preference, I guess. And I don't like this from Razz. The Dragoon that he's throwing away here is something that each unit is very valuable in this early game, and I don't see what he thinks he's going to accomplish with it. And his natural is going to be delayed as well, because there's an SCV there harassing the probe. Did the SCV actually kill the probe at the Protoss natural?
Still there.
Yeah, does it have a kill? I want to see this.
You got it.
Oh man. Oh, that's rough. Anyhow,
I wonder why he didn't just take one of his dragoons and push the SCV out. I'm not sure why he just let them battle. It seemed like a waste.
yeah, exactly. And it's because he moved his dragoon across the map, and I don't really know. I don't really know why. He didn't need to move his dragoon down onto the low ground. If the dragoon is on the high ground, it's gonna have such a better trade. I mean, he should have just backed off because the tank and the 2 or 3 Marines. But yeah, the second dragoon should have stayed home. And Protoss is way behind right now. Like it's not even close. And you know, Cryoc's gonna scout the dragoon count. He knows that Razz doesn't have the gas to really have anything else, or at least he should know. So you know, Cryoc should be feeling pretty good. The only thing he can die to right now is something similar to last game, which, you know, I'm sure he'll be looking out for. Just Dragoon Reaver. It's pretty much.
He's already got missile turrets on the way.
Yeah, he's not having any of it. So like I said, Cryoc's adjustments this game are so good. The factory placement is good. The turrets are on time, and you know, Razz is behind. You know, it's 10 workers. It's not even close. So unless he does something crazy, Cryoc walling off even more, he knows it. He knows he just needs to play a solid macro game, and this series is in the books.
What's Protoss's game plan?
Well, it's hard to say. He can go a lot of directions still, right? But it looks like he's going DT drop. I think this could be like, this can be very good, but he's gonna have to knock down. Is there an academy? There's no academy, right? So, oh, the academy's on the way. The turret next to the CC is gonna make it easy enough to repair. The only way this works is if he gets the DTs up to the turret without it being noticed.
Yeah, like if he flies over the right-hand side or something, but he's already got a building there scouting it, so.
But he has to make this work, right? Because he's so far behind otherwise. Like, this needs to do... The problem I have with this, actually, is that not only does it have to do damage, it has to do near game-ending damage. And 2 units, doesn't matter what 2 units, when the Terran has detection, is not going to do... Oh, Cryoc's moving out. He sees it, though. He has to, right? Uh-oh. Does he see it?
Interesting.
He hasn't reacted yet. So this is actually very, very bad for Cryoc, right? He didn't see it on time, but one more hit on that shuttle. If he has like a Goliath, he's probably building a Goliath right now.
I wish he'd taken out that comm set. I don't think he knows what to do right now.
Yeah, well, the problem is he knows he needs to do a ton of damage, right? So like, but then you get in there and the SCVs are gone, and you're like, well, what do I do? I'm like he has to know that he's behind in this game.
That shuttle took a lot of damage. It was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
even like just hitting the supply depots or something. I don't know if you do that against Terran, but
no, you can't, right? Like unless you do some crazy damage here,
Well,
you're
he's
just
out of scans. I mean, you could do some major delaying at least.
Yeah.
You can get something out of it.
True.
Why is he going for the armory and not going for the units?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Well, the SCVs, like...
I can't tell which one's better, to be honest. To take out that +1 upgrade isn't too bad, and Terran can't make Goliaths, but...
Well, it's not bad, but
it's not crippling the economy, though.
Yeah, exactly. When you start the attack and you're 10 SCVs behind, and the third base is coming up, like, he scouted the third base going up. He knows that he's way behind on workers. He knows that he's way behind on bases. and he knows that he's behind on army. So like, you can't afford to attack buildings. Basically, you need to kill everything that the Terran has, and I don't think it's possible with 2 DTs. I think he should have waited for 4 DTs.
Drop 2 in one
Because
base, drop 2 in another kind of thing.
yeah, or even just like drop 4 on the same base and hope that Cryoc doesn't pull his units back. Now we have a 2 Templar Reaver drop. Like this is desperation here. This is what desperation looks like.
And he's got a Goliath probably with no Charon boosters yet, but
Yeah.
will be soon.
And now the macro factories. Going up to 5 factories. Oh, the shuttle takes a hit, but it's gonna get a Templar off.
Okay,
That's a very good storm.
It looked like way more than 8 kills.
Yeah. But you know what's crazy about this is that was a massive storm, and Cryoc is ahead, and he's got a bank. Of course, he probably would want to spend that bank, but once the bank is spent, it's looking real rough for Razz. He's expanding now. He's taking a third. I think Razz almost needs to double expand and just hope that Cryoc doesn't push out. He doesn't have the economy right now to deal with the push. You know, Cryoc's building a second armory, so he's gonna go for a 2-1 timing. Hopefully for him, it's a little bit faster this time. But you know, we saw last game, or was it last game? No, the game before. In game 2, the 2-1 was late, so there's definitely still opportunities for Razz if the 2-1 is late to break the army, but
I like the random
certainly doesn't
DT on the bridge, just to scout and also maybe get a few swipes.
yeah. Well, you hope
Or maybe you could run them
Karnak-
in even afterwards, like if the move out happens, you could try to run it into the base.
Well, Cryoc's gonna have a vessel, so it's not gonna matter, but it's a good idea. Like, at least you burn a scan. You know, maybe the Terran runs out of scans and can't push you. Like, that must be the thought process. Oh, almost loses the shuttle there.
Yeah, that's...
That shuttle can't commit to anything else. So, he's just gonna bring it home.
What do you even do with a shuttle like that? Like, I don't know. I feel like you can't use that in combat once the Goliaths have the range upgrade.
Yeah, I think you have to use it in the push. You just build a second shuttle and fly this one in behind. So the second shuttle starts taking the hits, and this one basically will go untouched until it merges with the tanks. But yeah, it's really not looking good for Razz. Like, he's caught up on workers, he's caught up on supply, but even on economy.
But he's adding in
Even
a fourth
economy,
base
even
now.
supply. Yeah.
But I'd imagine Terran's either gonna push or add their own fourth.
Cryoc's gonna push in about 15 seconds. So, and there he is. Wait, those are just vultures. Where are the tanks?
A lot of vultures.
He's got
Tanks are in H though, so.
He's a lot more vulture heavy than he was last game. But it looks like he wants to mine up the backstab route. Maybe also scouting for shuttles, but yeah, I'm not sure about this. I think that's the route that he needs to take anyway to get to that second high ground. Where his vultures are now is probably where he wants to push, because last time we saw that his high ground was a bit too far from the Protoss main, so the engagement actually happened on the low ground. But
was that the shuttle?
I think that was an observer.
Yeah, that was.
Okay.
Where's the shuttle?
Shuttles kind of make like this really weird, like misty death, right? Whereas the observers are like this big blue explosion.
There he is.
I mean, maybe Cryoc feels like he has to wait a little bit longer this game because he wants the 2-1 to finish a little bit late again. But yeah,
The production's crazy. 7 vultures and 2 tanks all at once.
Yeah, Yeah.
That's
The Cryoc's almost maxed. He has to go.
Why is 2-1 important and not 1-1 or 1-0 or 2-2?
So part of it is like it's just the quickest, like reasonable amount of upgrades that you can get. But I actually don't know the exact math on it. I think that um, +2 kills a tank in 2 hits, right? So I'm assuming that it has a similar effect on Dragoons, where it is a net reduction on the amount of sieged up hits that a Dragoon needs to take in order to kill. It's an A move.
really bad.
Yeah, that's over.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Dragoons are doing there. They can't get caught like that.
Yeah, he's down supplies. Does he have an arbiter?
No, there's he spent so much money, so much gas on Templars. There's no way he can have arbiters on time for a 2-1.
See, the whole game's been building up to this moment, and I feel like Razz needs to be very careful about where, when, how he engages.
Yeah, he just ran into mines with his
And
entire army.
That's the tricky thing about StarCraft, because everything just leads up to that one big battle, and it's easy to throw it all away in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like what happens a lot in PvT, at least for me, is I kind of like send my army into fight and I go back for a macro cycle, and then I go back to my army and I'm like, oh, I only have Dragoons left, I better run.
It's gone.
And sometimes it's on time and sometimes it isn't.
So another thing is maybe engaging right after you've started making units if you're the instigator, right? That might be one
Yeah.
tip.
Well,
Because by the time the battle is done, your cycle should be done more or less, depending on, I guess, what race you are and what units you're making. If you're Protoss, I think that's easier to do, and if you're meching as Terran, it might be more easier. Protoss is just getting hammered here, like.
Yeah, he doesn't even have a shuttle for the High Templars, so they got EMP'd and not a single storm.
Well played. Cryoc macro was on point.
Yeah, even Razz ended the game with 2k minerals and like 1k gas in the bank.
I'm like I go back and forth between like the things that happen that series, right? And I'm like, the early game decision making and the macro were both a little bit problematic for Raz there. So
Right.
I mean that's obviously where Cryoc gained an edge, but Cryoc, probably would have been a little bit more vulnerable to like some committed aggressive attacks early on. The one game 3, where Raz won, it was just a 2-base kind of, what was it, 3-gate Goon and plus Reaver. It's simple, but it's easier to stay on top of that, I guess.
Is it tricky to engage as Protoss versus Terran on that map?
So I think the
With tank siege?
Cryoc, I think the Cryoc chose didn't choose a very good engagement area, especially given how far back the Protoss army was. The Protoss can move further forward, right? So, I mean, it's a weird.
Should he have destroyed those eggs when he had a chance before Terran moved out?
It's a bit of a weird map when you engage in the middle, right? Because if the Protoss army is far back, the Terran wants to move on the right side, right? But if the Protoss army is far forward, the Terran wants to move on the left side. And Cryoc seemed to pretty much indiscriminately move on the left side, regardless of where the Protoss was. So he wasn't really.
I think he got antsy when Terran moved out and was just like, I'm gonna go head on and attack. Yeah. And then when his units started getting melted, he kind of backed up.
Yeah, and exactly. And the Protoss is basically just trying to force a fight on the low ground in one of the major exposed areas. So by doing that, I guess they just hold their own high ground until the Terran forces them off of it, right? And that forces the Terran onto the low ground. And from there, you have a good area where you can potentially surround them in. But in this game, Razz never really had... In both games where there was a push, Razz just didn't have the units. In game 2, I want to say, there was Cryoc pushed out with 1-0. He didn't wait for 2-1. It almost blew up in his face, but if Razz just had 10 more Zealots, it would have been game over, and we'd be looking at a completely different series.
Another interesting thing about the map, I think, is it's not completely flat in the middle, and there's all these small, for lack of a better term, platforms where you can gain the high ground. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure if players are accustomed to that, know how to use it, how to maneuver around them, things like that.
Well, I think that what you'll see in these show matches is probably players will find one way to play the map, and they'll just play it that way. And like I was saying, I kind of beat this point to death, but for Cryoc, who he saw the most direct path of moving across the map was just like going up the ramp and down onto the low ground, right? Maybe somebody who practices for a specific Protoss player in a professional StarCraft league will realize that, okay, if the army, maybe I lay mines on the low ground, and if the army is far enough back to allow me to do that, then I move around the right so that I have high ground advantage, and I can even move across the bridges. So
Right.
I think that you'll see that level of detail in a pro game. I don't expect you'll see that level of detail in show matches of people playing the map for the first time. They're just going to be like, you see how Cryoc played that game, right? He's like, okay, I'm going to two-fact, and I'm going to make sure that I build all my units on time and that I rally them to his main, right? Or, I'm going to play a standard macro game. I'm going to wait for 2-1. I'm going to push out with a maxed army, and I'm probably just going to have enough. He didn't he didn't try to pull any gimmicks. He didn't try to do anything new. His units always followed the same pathing. I think that even though Razz's macro was a little bit weaker, I think that if he studied the movement from Cryoc, he'd probably be able to take advantage of the map to gain serious advantages.
Right.
Where Cryoc just probably wasn't thinking about the map, because the easiest thing to do on a new map is just do a tried and tested macro build and hope that you just have better macro. Right, but yeah, we'll definitely see some interesting games on this. I think the middle is far more interesting than I initially gave it credit for, I guess is what I'm saying, is that I think in pro games, in AS or the CMSL, we're gonna see some pretty interesting stuff on this map.